Hello and welcome to Peace is an Action Verb podcast. I'm here with Jason Rudofsky, who I know from high school back in the day, and also more recently from Facebook. And so, Jason, I'd like to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself.
Great, thank you, Christine. Yep, knew each other 30 some years ago in high school. Um, those were good times back then. And I was in the restaurant business for 35 years, nearly 35 years. And the pandemic really ended it for me. My dad continued, he and I ran the restaurant together and owned the restaurant. He moved on and continued the name and is um, working at the new establishment. I did my time, so to speak.
Mhm.
And anyone who's ever worked in a restaurant, for a long period of time, they know how difficult it can be. And so for the last couple of years, I've been at home pretty much and taking care of my kids, stepkids, um, and looking for new adventure.
Yeah, okay, new
Um,
adventure.
Looking for a new adventure, and you just get to a point where you'd like the next, phase of your life to be doing something that you really enjoy and love, and wake up every day, and you want to minimize some of the stress that was the restaurant business.
Right, right. Well,
Um, so that's it. Many pets, lots of kids, and we're good. Thank
thanks.
goodness.
Yeah, knock on wood. Absolutely. So I've got this list of peace verbs. Here. And if I can take you back to high school, Jason, for a few
Yeah,
minutes, we can. So I'm 2 years younger than you. And when you are in high school, that could be actually a fairly large gap in terms of,
right.
how you experience each other. And so I remember we were in a choir class together in our really small high school. I don't know how many kids were in your class, but there were 42 in ours. So
I think we
small high
had
school.
60, maybe 60.
Okay, so a little bit bigger, but I remember you and your friend Jeremy coming into that class in a kind of kinetic ball of energy, the two of you. And I don't even remember what you did or what you said, but I remember there being like I felt like I was in a studio audience to your show. And you two would come in with joy and maybe a little bit of naughtiness. I don't know how the teacher experienced it, but do you even remember um, and I'm going to bring the piece for play. You were playful in these times. Do you even remember what you would do, whether you
Well,
would
it's funny.
plan something?
Jeremy is a fairly well known actor now in New York. Um, and I text with him nearly daily.
So you're still very close friends.
Very, very close. He he's the one who introduced me to Cindy Jordan and to choir. There is no way. I have a big voice,
Hmm.
but I really never thought about singing at all.
Hmm.
I could never read music, but I did love to sing and I
Hmm.
did love to use my voice. But he's like, you should come to choir,
Ah, okay.
and it changed everything. Really, it changed everything. I loved. Cindy, of course, was also a really good friend,
Yeah.
and there was something about her that made the performances, both in the classroom and the ones that we did at Frolicker,
Hmm.
so enjoyable. I mean, she just made it really fun. She was she was bright, both you know in the mind, and she was always had a bright face, and she loved what she did. She was great with kids, and I loved going. It was a getaway. It seemed like
Hmm.
a getaway. That's why I
Hmm.
loved theater too.
Hmm.
I've always been a very playful
Hmm.
human being. I love games.
Hmm.
Games all the time, any kind of game, puzzles. I love play,
Hmm.
and you could escape in choir, you could escape in the theater. You could
So
be
it's like
somebody totally different,
a 40-minute period of
without a
time in a
mask
day.
on. It was just great.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. So So I'm hearing a lot of peace verbs there. So in terms of Cindy welcoming all of us with a brightness in her heart and her
Oh,
mind.
yes.
And so she created a space. We were, that's on your list here too. She created a space for all of us, and that you were encouraged. Jeremy encouraged you to come into that space, and you found your voice quite literally, and also an ability to be someone else without wearing a mask. And that I wanted to ask you about storytelling, because I also remember you being very involved with theater and being in the productions that we had at our high school. And that's a kind of storytelling. So can you tell me more about that experience of maybe being a part of that story that wasn't your own life, like the storytelling aspect of it?
Well, I'll tell you, Angel V. Hill, it was a natural segue from choir to Angel V. Hill in the theater department.
Hmm.
Um, you could, I mean, the costumes downstairs, even just being in the theater, whatever we did in that theater, sometimes it was just an assembly.
Hmm.
But that space in particular was, it was, the stage was so enormous.
Hmm.
Um, and there was a lot of being on that stage was powerful
Hmm.
for me at that age. I mean, it
Hmm.
was powerful. um, and just the way they worked together, Cindy and Angel,
Yeah.
to create that. I was like, hey, fantasy, right? I mean, Angel was like, hey, it's all make believe. Um, it was just a great atmosphere. I mean, that's where most of the play took place. No pun intended.
Right.
Um, they're so creative. And I remember just Lancelot. I think it was Lancelot. Wait, what? Not Lancelot. What's the name? Anyway, you put on a costume. I put on this elaborate piece,
Hmm.
and the power of the singing and the ensemble that is all those theater geeks that love
Hmm.
to do all the shows, kind of the
Hmm.
same people. um, it's just a there was just a it just felt really good. It felt really good. It felt really good to be on stage to tell a story in that way.
In a very
um,
embodied way,
Even
but
if it was
also,
in an assembly.
yeah.
Assemblies, people would get up and just say, okay, what's new, and you know what's new in your class, what are the juniors doing, what are the sophomores, can we get here from the, and that was always like and you talk about community.
Hmm.
At the time, and still to this day, my high school memories are fantastic. I mean,
Hmm.
I still am really close with a lot of people that I went to high school, but it was a community. We weren't one or two out of 600. We were one or two out of 60. And within that 60 or 42, whatever you had,
Hmm.
there was, 20 and 20. There were sort of groups here and there. But
Sure.
as an upper school, we were a big community.
Right. I
And
remember
so
that too.
the entire school would go to watch and do things, whether it was a choir performance, whether it was a play or a musical. I mean, that's where you went to play. Really, was either the gym,
Hmm.
or for me it was the theater. I loved it. I loved
Well,
it.
I want to say thank you for bringing your joy to share with everyone, because I still remember all these 30 years later being delighted, just to be in
Well,
class with
thank you.
you,
Thank you.
and
I'll tell you a quick story.
you're
In
welcome.
one of the shows, Bill Olson, he always was playing the romantic lead with Debbie Criswell. I don't know if you're friends
Okay,
with
so I
Debbie
don't
Criswell.
remember.
She
They
was
may
in
have been a
our
little bit
she was in, and
older.
she was always playing
But
the female lead. She's doing a lot of theater and
okay.
singing in San Diego right now. But a
Oh,
week to
exciting.
go, something happened. A week to go before the performance was going up. Oh, something happened with Bill, and he's like,
Hmm.
"I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it."
Hmm.
and I had a minor role. And Angel and Cindy, I think, came to me and said, "We need you to play Lancelot.
Oh, wow.
Can you play Lancelot?" And this is what CA was. Don't worry about your classes. You have a week. Just study your lines. We'll take care of your classes later, right? It
Right.
was like, we have a show to put up, and we're going to put that show up. So don't you worry about any tests or anything. We've already talked to your teachers.
Wow.
So I had
Right.
a week to get it done. Oh, you know what it was? I'll tell you what it was. It wasn't the Lancelot. It was C'est moi. What's C'est moi? C'est moi. Anyway, it was one of those performances where I basically had a week to do it. And my
Wow.
sister um, played. She played the MC. What's that show?
Cabaret. Cabaret.
Cabaret.
Yeah.
She played
Right.
the MC, and
Right.
I played anyway.
Yeah, I
And I
remember.
think Debbie Criswell played the female lead, and he
Hmm.
didn't want to with a week to go. So anyway, they were very accommodating at CA. I mean, those were big performances. They put a lot into that.
They did.
And they built a whole theater.
They
They
did.
built a whole crazy theater, like a real honest theater. Um, I mean, we used to play all kinds of stuff in there. It was great.
There was quite a breadth of the different would we call them pieces, the different plays, the different musicals that came through. I do remember, and some of them were sophisticated. Like there was one flew over the cuckoo's nest. I remember happening.
Yeah.
High school kids.
Remember, it was like back, and it wasn't like on the like you didn't sit. It was theater in the round. I
It
think we did.
was. It was. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, yeah. They kind of, well, that's what I think. That's what the parents kind of expected big things back then. I think.
sure, but they were big things in terms of the resources that went into the production, but they were very big things in terms of the heart. It wasn't all just about
Oh,
the
that's my point.
yeah.
Like it was so uh, the arts were so driven into us. I mean, most high schools you didn't have to take a fine art. You
Right.
don't have to take a fine art. I
Right.
mean, I did photography, and there was, with Mrs. French. I did, I forgot, whatever her name was, the art teacher. Whether it was going to the gym and just playing weird games with the ball that we found. Jeremy and I did that all the time. I mean, you had to play one or two. You had to play two
Right.
out of three sports.
Right. We had to be moving our bodies. We had to be participating in
I
some
mean, there
kind of
was
art
always
form.
art, and
Yeah.
there was always it just if someone said give one word, and it's not just due to what we're talking about now, but it was a playful atmosphere for me. Very playful, very playful. All my memories are really good. High school, it was a very playful time for me, and it
And
is for
so
a lot of people, but it's also a very difficult time for a lot of people for a lot of
right.
different reasons, as we know.
Right.
But for me, all my memories are great. I mean, it was great. I mean, you were friends with people spanning from ninth to 12th, right? I mean, from freshman to senior, there were intertwining of classes. I mean, I was friends
Right.
with 86 people. I'm still really good friends with 86 people, and 87 people, and 90, and 89, and so there was a span of 5 6 years where we had a lot of different. I think it was, yeah, it was good. It was good back then.
So thank you. Thanks for taking a trip down memory lane
Oh
and
yeah.
remembering all that. So so you started the conversation talking a little bit about being in the business with your dad for 35 years in the restaurant business, and I remember seeing a post from your sister congratulating the two of you when you decided, you know what, we need to call it quits now. When you were closing up and you were seeing an end to that chapter. So I do want to talk about grieving in terms of letting go of that, but I also would like to maybe start from the beginning with your journey of going into that business with your dad and coming. So you're coming out of Colorado Academy. the experience we were just talking about. You're going into college, coming back home, and then, you were saying maybe you didn't expect to be in the restaurant business, but then you decided to do this. So can you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Um, I went up to see you. I was actually in the theater department, but it was too clicky.
Hmm.
Very small group of people who it was just theater, 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 theater all the time. Just
Hmm.
that group, and I had other groups of friends. I mean,
Hmm.
fraternity. I was in the Sea of Buffoons, which is an a cappella group,
Oh, fun.
um, for years, and I just had a lot of different pockets. So I got out of the theater business, and um, I was doing some improv, a lot of sketch comedy
Hmm.
and improv, um, and I may have had an opportunity at that time, but my dad opened a restaurant after he was in the travel business forever. And we've always been big foodies in our family. I mean, on my dad's side, from my grandmother, great grandmother, I remember going over to her house. Anyway, cooking's always been and food has always been important in our family. That
I,
being said, it he needed someone at the time. Said, "Why don't you come work for me?" I mean, it was early 20s. And so I started learning the business, and the business was. I mean, you learn a lot in the restaurant business. It's just you got to do a lot. You find out how much you can handle, and I took on more responsibility, and um, I did it for a long time, and I'm not. And I've taken these last couple of years because of it's just a long time. It's just a
yeah.
long time to be in the restaurant business. I don't know that I would have gone into the restaurant business. Convenient at the time.
Hmm.
I learned so much. I mean,
Hmm.
I can't tell you. It was like basically I took a 30-year college course. You know what I mean?
Oh, I can believe it. Yeah, and probably
Um,
more like a PhD.
right.
Yeah.
Um, but the behind the scenes of a restaurant, people just don't understand. It's just there's too many moving parts. I'm kind of high strung as it is, and I saw a lot of bad things from myself that um, I just couldn't do it. But there was a time where I could have gone a different way, maybe to LA to do some of that stuff. Um, there was some interest from other people to bring me out to LA to do stuff, and you know what? I think I was newly married and I had kids, and the move, it is what it is. So it was just a convenient situation that I fell into the restaurant business. Um, and although it taught me a tremendous amount, I don't know that I could do it again. I
Hmm.
don't know. Unless I was just an employee cooking in the back or a waiter situation, something like that.
So
Because food is everything.
yeah.
Food's everything. People think about food all day long, 24/7. All we do is think about. I mean, when's the next meal?
Right.
What are we having for dinner?
Right.
I need to eat. I'm hungry. I should eat. Um, and so, and why do we ask our kids every time they came? How was lunch? Did you enjoy? Because food for me, anytime, anytime someone's feeding themselves, I feel great. And if you can make it a wonderful meal, that's even better. And
Yeah.
so the best thing about the restaurant was it was like putting on a show. It was like
Yeah. Yeah.
it
I
was
was
like
wondering.
putting on a play,
Right.
right? And here's my performance. How
Right.
did I do? How was the meal? How was the lighting? How was the meal? How was the waitress? How was everything about it? It's a production.
It is a production.
And for me, it wound up where I was in the kitchen
Hmm.
cooking the food because ultimately it's about the food and it wasn't coming out exactly right. And to me, when someone goes out and pays for a meal,
Hmm.
whether it's me or I'm on the other side of the coin,
Hmm.
it's special. I mean, food is special and it means something. And there's, whether money or not's involved, if you can feed someone and they just are in a euphoric state afterwards because it was a wonderful meal and it hit them in the right spot,
Yeah.
that's heaven.
Yeah.
And if you can do that with, I mean, that's why, you know, food is, especially with kids, with children, it's like all you want to do is feed them and watch them eat. Then you can't understand why they don't eat certain things. And then, but as long as they're eating, thank you.
There's
If
something
it's chicken
so
nuggets for every meal, it's okay.
there's something so deeply, not even, it's not even just human, honestly. It's about being alive that
It's
goes
about being
back to
alive.
eating.
It's the same
Yeah.
way watering plants.
Right.
I have 4 chickens, feeding my chickens, watching them eat and grow
Yeah.
is as satisfying sometimes as watching your kids grow.
Yeah.
Your dogs, I mean, you don't want to see a plant, the chickens, your dogs, your kids in any bad situation. And it
Right.
starts with health and what they're eating and is it good and, healthy for them and helping them grow. And um,
And so
so that part was great of the
it,
restaurant.
and it wasn't even just you were feeding people. This is family recipes, right? This is,
It's family recipes. And it was all, made from scratch. I mean, it was nothing that we were getting we were making everything from the tuna salad to the matzo ball soup to the matzo balls to, the corned beef we cooked, the turkey we cooked, the roast beef we cooked. And, I think his goal, his vision was, and he achieved it when he opened the restaurant before I was involved, was uh, uh, somewhere where people could, this is what my grandmother used to make. This is
yes.
what my mother used to make.
Yeah.
And it tastes exactly. And those comments, you'd get those comments, and they were like gold bars, right? Someone just handing you a gold bar. Here you go. I mean, that's how good it felt
And
to just hear someone was like, you know what? I was born and raised in New York,
yeah.
or my mother used to make a coffee cake almost like this, but you know what? I like yours a little better. But it brings such good memories. Or I had the chicken and it was, or I haven't had pastrami like that in so long. Thank you. I mean, you live for that. And
Yeah.
it's the same way coming off stage and someone say, I loved your performance. I love when you did this, or that facial expression, or, that's where I get, and it's the same way in the restaurant. The same feeling
Hmm.
of, a gratifying, satisfying feeling when you'd get that. And that's what it was, putting on your best performance. And, they're an audience. That's what, your patrons are. And consequently, we had people 7 days a week. We
Wow.
had for 10, 15 years, we had the same groups every Sunday. That's
Wow.
their table. We'd set up their table the night before. I
Wow.
mean,
Yeah.
very rare that they would miss. It was that community oriented. People, we were always there. So it was like you were just walking out of your bedroom downstairs to the kitchen every morning.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? You'd see the same people, like, good morning,
Right.
you know, good
Right.
morning, how'd you sleep? I mean,
Right.
you'd see him 7 days. I had a guy 7 days a week.
Wow.
And when he didn't
That's
come,
so
we'd all
special.
get a little nervous and we'd have to
Right.
make some calls. Oh, his car's in the shop.
Yeah.
I'd go pick him up some days and bring him in.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you opened Rudofsky family to Denver in a sense.
Huh?
You opened your family to Denver through your restaurant. It
It
was
was a
like,
very big, when you're in it, you don't realize how much it brings community together, but so many, the networking, the meetings, I mean, I saw people, I saw, you know, I saw people being born. I saw, births, and then 15 years, 20 years, whatever later, 25, married and with
wow,
their own children. Or I'd
amazing.
see, kids that would come in with their parents and all of a sudden they're 23, 24, just got, they're, I mean, births, deaths, so many different situations.
So,
It was just it was very communal,
so I
and it
want to
did
bring.
bring Denver together. It
Sorry to
did.
interrupt you. I'm hearing so many verbs, Jason. I wanted to take a moment and celebrate them with you. You're cooking a homemade meal from scratch. You're honoring your family by bringing your great grandmother and your grandmother's recipes into this restaurant. You are creating a space, like a physical space, if there's a restaurant space, but you're also holding a space in the honoring that you're doing, making sure the food is the way it needs to be, and the making sure your regular customers are okay if they don't show up. You're so holding a space, creating a space, sharing a meal together, sharing in general. um, I feel like there's also some kind of a being a hub of a wheel. If there's people having meetings with work colleagues, there's people celebrating the big moments in their family's life, the births, the graduations, the weddings, the deaths, here in your restaurant, and you're holding that all together. And I'm hearing that that is nourishing to you too on a heart level, and also so much work. The behind the scenes, all of the nuts and bolts that go into making that happen, that production happen, seems to be you worked very hard. So that's another piece verb that I'm hearing and all of
Yes,
that.
yes, worked very hard. I did work very hard. Um, yeah.
Wow, congratulations. That's so much to
Well, thank you,
accomplish.
thank you.
Really beautiful. And gosh, is there more that you want to say about that experience? I wanted to ask you about endings and new beginnings too, but I don't want to cut you off from telling us more about Zadie's.
No, it's you know, it was there was just a really good period of time that it meant a lot to Denver, to Cherry Creek, and I was born and raised not a half a mile from there,
Right?
and it changed a lot. It changed a lot about 2010, 2012. It just changed. It wasn't the small little town anymore.
An actual physical way, a lot of redevelopment happening, right?
The redevelopment killed us. There were two huge buildings going up. No one could find parking. It just became a mess. Um, and a lot of different reasons. A lot of different reasons. I feel very fortunate that I was able to learn so much, and fortunate that I was behind that name
Mm-hmm.
um, for so long. Uh, the way we parted, myself and Zadie's, was not the most uh, celebratory situation. Um, but I have so much to. I have to say, I equate it to like being. There's a part of me that's like I'm a little bit. I was a little bit in a penitentiary. I don't want to paint that picture, but when you get out, you just don't want to go back. You just don't
Right.
want to go
Well,
back. It's just a lot of hard work, day in and day out. You're married to the place.
right.
My
Yeah.
relationship with my biological children took a toll. I just wasn't there. I couldn't afford the time away. The
Right.
restaurant just suffered. And because I had taken on so much, and my dad, whatever, I took it upon myself and it just had to be there all the time, or it didn't run properly.
And so
And
you
I
have to
could
make
have done it
choices.
differently.
I guess you have to. Sorry to interrupt you. I was just hearing on my wall over here, because here's the peace wall, right?
Right.
There's a, I don't know if you can see down there, but there's let go of being perfect and right, making mistakes and delving. I mean, I feel like you delved into the restaurant business, and there's a certain, whenever anyone who is I think a business person, especially in a small business role, in a leadership role, there's sacrifices to be made. One cannot be fully 100% at home and fully 100% running a small business, and to let go of being perfect and right around the dynamics of that, I think is also really important. um, and so
Yeah, it was very, yeah, very interesting, very interesting.
So I'm
Um,
just offering you a wish of peace in that and bringing those verbs into the conversation because I don't think anybody could do it perfectly.
no, no, no. But huge part of my life.
Yeah.
And right now,
Yeah.
I'm trying to get more back on stage a little bit.
Oh, that's
Um,
wonderful.
you know, some shows here and there. We've got some improv shows, some sketch comedy shows, and that's been. They're not a ton right now, but in the fall there'll be more shows, and that's just a great. I haven't done it for a while, and I did it at the end of April, and we did a couple shows. We've been rehearsing for a long time, and it's just I mean, you talk about play.
Yeah.
It's just play. It's
Hmm.
laughter. It's basically laughter the whole
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
And we put up a really fun show, sketch comedy, and the response was tremendous. And it's just a really good feeling. So it's good to be doing that again. Um, and we'll see. But right now, I've been fortunate and lucky to take some time away.
Hmm.
Um, but after doing the restaurant for so long, it's as much as I love food
Hmm.
and being in that part, it's I am trying to search for something that I can make a living at and enjoy tremendously. Not that I didn't enjoy the restaurant. It's just I'd like to take some of that stress out of it. And
Right.
especially these days,
Right.
restaurants are very difficult right now. Even still. Oh, COVID's over.
It's not
But
really.
it took a really big hit. Really big hit. So
So I'm hearing you. I'm looking up again at that wall. Dreaming, finding and following your own path. You're envisioning a future for yourself that is uh, more towards the joy and less towards the stress, and finding right timing too. I think there's definitely an element in peace action of knowing when it's time, knowing when it's time to wrap something up, knowing when it's time to start something new, and allowing for rest as well, allowing there to be downtime.
totally.
Yeah, really
Yes.
important.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's been good. Last couple of years have been good.
Yeah. Wow. It's good. I'm glad you had a break. Many of us were in forced break mode, being at home, with the pandemic. But to be able
I
to
know.
have a deep off time, basically, if you've been in a restaurant for 35 years and then you don't have to be, that must have really felt like difficult, but also really good.
Well,
I'm
I tell you,
imagining.
there is some PTSD when I go into a restaurant
Wow.
and
Yeah.
sit.
Yeah.
Um, if I see, and it's unfortunate because right now a lot of restaurants are shorthanded.
Right.
They just don't have the workforce. And when it gets really busy, I start to get antsy
Hmm.
because it you know it just stressed me out.
Hmm.
Have people wait, or you're missing something in the kitchen, and you got to, there's all
Hmm.
that other piece, and it's been recently several times where I just felt really uncomfortable in the situation. I could see that they were real busy, of course, and I just was like, we're gonna go somewhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, a
Yeah.
woman downtown at the convention center, there's a Pizza Republica
Hmm.
right next to the convention center.
Hmm.
They've got 100 things going on that day. 6 o'clock in the evening. 6 o'clock in the evening. Excuse me.
No
Six
worries.
o'clock in the evening. They had no staff. There was no one at. There was no hostess.
Oh my
For 5
gosh.
minutes, I'm waiting. Here comes the hostess with her baby strapped to a baby Bjorn in front.
Oh my
This is
gosh.
a. I mean, and she was running food from the window. I could see her. Then I'll be
with
right
her
back.
with
And
her
she'd
baby.
go and get people's foods and take it to their table with with her baby strapped.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that like stresses me out.
Right. Your
Like I
empathy.
know. I mean, I feel so sorry that she has to do that with her
Yeah.
child. That she's either got no one at home to watch the child or whatever the situation is. But even so, those kind of things, and it's just been a lot of stress because I can I can see what it was like when we were shorthanded,
Hmm.
and that really makes me anxious because then I'm flying around. I lose control a little bit. I lost control of myself a little bit,
Right,
trying to
right.
do too much and very anxious, and
That's
so
where you have to let go of being perfect and right.
exactly, exactly, exactly. And I
Yeah,
I do profess that, sometimes with people, like, look, it happened. What are you gonna do? There's nothing. I mean, I made a mistake, or and owning up to it. Right? I'm not perfect. I made a
exactly.
mistake. I'm sorry, but I'll
Exactly.
learn from it.
And apologizing is on the list of peace verbs. And learning,
Apologizing.
and
Apologize.
learning.
I don't do it enough. I don't do it enough. I have a personality that I'm learning a lot about.
Mm.
Um, that I have been not. I have not. It's been difficult, or I just don't own up to the fact that maybe I made the mistake. It's always first to blame someone else. Like, why did you let that happen? Why did you let that happen? My first option is blame. Um, when sometimes then my wife will say, no, look, I think you made the mistake, and then I'm able to, I apologize. But yes, an apology is apologies. I'm not doing well. I should do more
I think
apologies.
the way that you're talking about this, I think you're describing a very universal human growth pattern. I
I
think
think
we
you're
all
right.
start off with that.
Right. No
It's
one
someone
wants to
else's fault.
be the one who made the mistake or wrong,
Right.
or right.
Right. And so to settle into the self acceptance and the self forgiveness first, I think is really helpful for getting to that place where it's easier to say I'm sorry, or you know what I'm saying. Like something about settling down, having some quiet time to oneself to really say, can I forgive myself? Yes, I can forgive myself.
Right.
As another longtime married person can say, I think we all go through that journey.
I agree. I agree.
So wow, Jason, there's so much to your experience with the restaurant, and I really appreciate you sharing all of that. I think it's easy to talk about the bright points, but to even also be willing to share the low points is, I think, encouraging to other people who want to try something from the heart, that want to actually invest themselves fully to hear from someone who has a realistic picture of what that looks like.
I mean, anyone who goes into the restaurant is not in it for the money. You really got to hit. You got to hit certain, and you got to have a lot of help to if you want to just make money. Most people go into it because they have a love of feeding people. They have a
Right.
love of community. They have a love of nourishing
Hmm.
the human soul. I mean, it
Mhm.
was, they say that matzo balls, what is it, a soup for the soul, or
Chicken soup for the soul, or something like
chicken
that.
soup for the soul, or you know, because there's more than just the ingredients. There's just more than the ingredients, right? The way you put it together, the way you present it, that all goes into. I mean, a piece of art normally has a frame around it,
Hmm.
right? I mean, there's certain, not that it has to. It's just I'm trying to find a metaphor, but there's a lot that goes into the process, and it people who do it, and chefs and pastry chefs and bakers and those people that are behind the food are tremendous. They do it to nourish humanity. I mean,
And it's a, I think when you're looking at a restaurant like yours where you're cooking traditional food, and or if you're looking at a restaurant where maybe it's more experimental and things are being invented on the spot, there's still that connection to the heart that's happening, and the connection to the body that's happening. And I was thinking, and as I was getting ready to have this conversation with you, so I'm adopted. I grew up with a Christian family, and when I met my birth mother at age 21, I found out that my grandfather was Jewish from Odessa and came to this country at age, I don't know, 4. And his parents settled in not so far from where I live right now here in Northern California. So I learned that about my history. And then a few years back, my husband and I were on a vacation and we happened to be in Poland. And what's that, maybe 100 miles away? I'm not sure how far away from Odessa, but the food, it got into my body at a cellular level in a way that I have never experienced before. I just felt so at home and so peaceful. And so just the cooking the traditional food for the Jewish diaspora as you are doing, and then also welcoming in non-Jewish people is there's something about that that is bringing the place here, bringing the homeland here, and then opening the doors and sharing that with people. And I think that's amazing. It's
You
really
know, that's
amazing.
funny. We went to Israel 8 years ago, 7 or 8
Mhm.
years ago, my third time. But it was 9 of us, Lisa's parents and all of our kids. Um, the food hit me in a way that, I mean, we were on a tour, and
Mhm.
so the food may have been a little extra special.
Hmm.
But they knew we were coming, but it hit me in a way that, same thing with being in Poland and near Odessa.
Mhm. Mhm.
There's something, the roots, the soul, your soul, whatever
I'm getting
previous
goosebumps right
lives,
now.
whatever previous lives,
Yeah,
you know, it means something.
it does. It
It
does.
means something, and that's, I mean, food, as we know, is so powerful, is just so powerful. That's great. I love that. I love that. My greatest food memories are from Israel. I couldn't.
Hmm.
I mean, you
Where
had the same experience, yeah.
on a cellular level, your body is recognizing the soil that you came from. Something about the DNA and the connection to the place, and through the just the way that the culture says, okay, here's food.
You know,
Here's what I'm going to
let me
put on your
just
table.
let me tell you, it's so funny. I grew up in a kosher home
Mm,
until we were about 15.
hmm.
Mid 80s, mid 80s, it was like, okay, things are changing rapidly. We got to change the way we do things.
Oh, interesting.
Um,
Yeah.
but I grew up in a kosher home, and consequently, biscuits and gravy, anything with a white cream gravy, we never would have because the meat and milk.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
for chicken or brisket or any meat, it was just basically what was ever coming from the bottom of the pan.
The
They
meat
didn't mix it
juice.
with cream. They
Right.
just heat it up and serve it, and
Right.
you know, it was great.
Right.
But and I wasn't adopted,
Right.
but in a previous life, I
Hmm.
must have grown up as a small dog on a farm.
Uh-huh.
I
Okay.
mean,
No, I'm hearing you. I'm
but
hearing you.
now, to me, biscuits and gravy is one of the greatest things on earth, I think.
Yeah.
Bacon is bacon right next to water, too, you know. I mean, and these were things that up until I was about 15 or 16, I never had, you know, it was forbidden
Yeah.
in our
Yeah.
home. And then things started to change. We'd eat on paper plates like a pepperoni pizza.
Uh-huh.
And of course, now I don't keep kosher at all. But um, those, you know, when I think about like biscuits and gravy, or like chicken, fried chicken and mashed potatoes and gravy, I know it's a lot of gravy, but those things that I didn't grow up with, um, ribs, pork ribs,
Mm,
barbecue pork ribs,
right.
all those like really comforting
Southern comfort
and
food.
filling and delicious foods I didn't grow up with.
Yeah.
Now I could eat it all day long. And I'm convinced that in previous lives,
Mm,
somewhere,
yeah.
I grew up where that was a staple for me. Like, I crave it.
It feeds your soul again. It feeds your soul
It
through
feeds my
a
soul.
past
It
life
feeds my
memory
soul.
rather than a DNA
It's a
memory.
euphoric
Yeah.
combination of things.
Yeah.
It's, yeah. I might go for some biscuits and gravy.
Yeah.
But all those things, like, and that's why, to me, like Chinese food and Mexican food restaurants,
Hmm.
there's so much family and so many, so much history in the recipes and
Right.
the way they've been doing it. And they brought those recipes,
With them from their home.
yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, there's good
It,
stuff. It's
it
good
is.
stuff.
It's really good stuff. It's, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking that maybe you need to be in a production about food. Like bring it to the theater world. Can you, there's just,
Well,
I'm hearing
and
so
here's the
much
thing:
joy
we
here.
spend so much time. Think about all
Yeah.
the movies that have dinner scenes in them,
Oh yeah,
where everyone sits around a dinner table. Those are the
for
best
sure.
scenes. They're always the best scenes. Um, Everyone's always in the kitchen. I mean, it's
Hmm.
like all we do is it's all about food. It's
Hmm.
all about food, like all the time. We're always thinking about our next meal.
And it's so
You know,
universal. But
isn't it?
we
But and it's just so funny. Everything eating in the car, like who eats in the car, who doesn't eat in the car, like what will you eat in the car, but you won't eat in the car. How many times have you spilled your coffee? Like we do so much in our cars, and the food, and I mean, and there's just so many. It's just crazy. It's funny. I was playing golf with a friend this morning. On the way home, we were just talking. We were like comparing the best chicken sandwiches. Oh, we passed like a Church's chicken, and he was like, "Oh, I haven't had Church's chicken. Have you had Popeye's chicken sandwich?" Because everyone's got like a chicken
their
sandwich,
favorite chicken
and
sandwich.
so we just started discussing. You know what I like? I like Chick-fil-A or Dave's Hot. Dave's Hot's got a really good chicken sandwich. Like we just started talking about all the different places with chicken sandwiches. It's amazing how much we talk and think about food, isn't it?
It is, and
Crazy.
we are a family of humans and birds, and we've had a lot of birds that have passed away already. But we had a parrot named Cracker. His name was Cracker Jacker. He went by CJ, and Cracker was all about what can I eat next, and he would sit on our table with us and eat from our dinner plate with us and drink a little bit of daddy's wine and a little bit of mommy's coffee, and so it's not even just a human thing. It's really
Right.
it's universal. And the
Right.
act of eating together too, what I've noticed being a family of humans and birds is that it's just as important for them to have a family meal as it is for the two humans to sit down together and have a meal. It's just as important for them to have their breakfast with us as it is for us to have our breakfast.
I mean, yeah, we could go on about that. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, growing up, I know it was how important it was how my parents demanded that you were at that dinner table
Right,
and surrounding the
right.
dinner table, what you brought, if you're going to the table, you need to ask, what do we need? How can I help? Or if you're
Oh,
leaving the table, don't walk back to the kitchen empty-handed.
mm,
Um, and we as parents, there's a hummingbird.
mm.
We as parents, a parenting generation, let that slip a little. And for me, it was really important, especially in a mixed family where I have three stepkids and
Mm-hmm,
two of my own, to try and
mm-hmm,
bring them together. It was important to me to have dinner together.
mm-hmm.
And it just never, and it would just became more and more frustrating. It just became more and more frustrating. But it was so important growing up for me in my household. We all kind of grew up like that, where it was just you were expected to be at the dinner table. You didn't do anything, and that was from generations before too.
That's right. And I think,
Um,
I don't know, but maybe this is what broke it.
I don't. I mean, you want to have another 4 hour conversation about what I think about that situation? Yes, yes, it did. Um, Unfortunately, it is what it is now. But
And yet, look at this. You and I went to high school together in Denver. I now live in California, and we're having a conversation in each other's home right now. And so there's still it has broken a lot of the chains, and yet it's also reconnected in so many ways.
incredible.
Yeah,
It boggles my mind. It
yeah.
really boggles my mind. It boggles my mind how we've sort of blinked in the last 30 years and look where we've come.
Right, right. And then if you can look at my father-in-law, for example, 90 years old now, grew up in a village that didn't have roads in Iran and would take the creek bed to get to the next village and the donkey, and look at what he's seen in his lifetime,
I
the
know.
technology change.
I
Yeah.
know. Does he have a cell phone?
Um, I think we have a flip phone for him. My mother-in-law absolutely has a cell phone, but I think for Baba, it's a flip phone. Yeah.
I mean, crazy, crazy. Well, you've made me hungry.
Yeah, likewise. Likewise. Gosh, Jason, thank you so much. As we've covered a lot of really fun ground. And
Great. I love the
yeah,
conversation. Loved it.
likewise.
I loved it. I
So
appreciate it. Well, keep me informed.
sure, sure.